Hello, welcome, and thanks for joining me. A while back I decided to start reading physical books as opposed to the ebooks that I've historically read over the last many years. And physical books require a little more planning ahead as far as actually getting the book, because when you're reading ebooks, of course, you can just press a button and magically you have the book. But I recently placed an order with Alibris, booksellers online. I bought all but one of these books are used, which I purchased off Alibris. It was the first time that I'd ever made an order on Alibris, and everything went smoothly. So, I may use them again in the future. But I thought it'd be kind of fun to run through these. There are 8 of them, just to get an idea of what will be some of the books coming up over the next few months that I will chat, of course, as I get them read. So let's get started. The first one is That Wondrous Pattern, Essays on Poetry and Poets by Kathleen Raine. I love essay collections, and this one sounded really cool. It's, about essays about poetry, just per the contents. Section 1 is the presence of poetry. Section 2 is the wisdom of poetry. The Section 3 is the witness of poetry. Some examples of the essays are What is Man? Premises and Poetry, The Inner Journey of the Poet, Innocence and Experience, Wordsworth, A Remembered Experience, Shelley as a mythological poet. So it's just essays about different, aspects of poetry and poets. I bought this book new, so after I gently read it, I am going to gift this to my friend James. It's going to be his Christmas present. So James, if you see this video, Merry Christmas. I'm looking forward to that. All right, so the next 2 I have here are 2 volumes of a 3-volume history of the Third Reich. I read the first volume and chatted that a couple of years ago, and I'll link to that chat down below. But these 2, this is the next one. The Third Reich in Power is volume 2. This is by Richard J. Evans. And then the third volume is The Third Reich at War. This 3-volume history of the Third Reich by Richard J. Evans is really, really good, and I had heard really great things about it. And then when I read the first volume, I learned so much, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions around the Third Reich. I think there's a lot of shortcuts to history, narratives that get done in the public, popular consciousness. And so it's really good to read a really good, clear, concise. He has a really clear, concise way of writing. It's not overly academic, so it's very readable for the average person. Volume 1 I enjoyed immensely, and I've been meaning to get to at least the second volume, but I would really like to finish all 3 volumes at some point. But definitely this one, the second volume, The Third Reich in Power, should be coming up in the next couple of months. All right. What else do we have? Then the Fish Swallowed Him by Amir Ahmadi Arian. This book was published this year, and I just loved this cover, and I kept coming back to this book really because of this cover, and also this Jonah story. Jonah and the whale, that's what this is referring to, from the Bible. Then the fish swallowed him. I just love this cover, and I like the Jonah tale. That Jonah story to me is so cool because, giant fish, people get swallowed by giant fish in a lot of metaphorical ways, and they don't always get spit back out, or when they are spit back out, they're spit back out as quite different people. And this is the story of Yunus Tarabi, a bus driver in Tehran, leads an almost invisible life. A solitary man since the unexpected deaths of his father and mother years ago, he is decidedly apolitical. Even during the transportation union strike and its bloody end. But everyone has their breaking point, and Yunus has reached his. So he winds up getting picked up as being part of this strike, this transportation union strike, and it ends up a political prisoner where he is he's in this prison in solitary confinement, and I think he's tortured. by the government. So this is a story, I think, of political oppression, and the big giant fish that swallows the main character here is a totalitarian or sort of authoritarian state. And so the book just sounded really interesting to me, and I really like this. I don't like the subject matter, but I think I like this kind of story where an oppressive state is, one person's sort of interaction with an oppressive state and how they cope with that. So sounds like it could be kind of gripping and hard to get through in places, but should be. I'm looking forward to that read. So my next one is Dear Edward by Anne Napolitano. This is one I heard about. This was published this year. Also, this was published this year too. I did mention that. I don't remember when the History of the Third Reich volumes were published. I think it was in the early 2000s. But anyway, back to this. Dear Edward, this was published early this year, 2020, and I read about it, at the beginning of the year, and I thought, oh, I want to get that read. It's been on my reading radar ever since I read about it at the beginning of the year. It says, one summer morning, 12-year-old Edward Adler, his beloved older brother, his parents, and 183 other passengers board a flight in Newark headed for Los Angeles. Among them are a Wall Street wunderkind, a young woman coming to terms with an unexpected pregnancy, an injured veteran returning from Afghanistan, a business tycoon, and a free-spirited woman running away from her controlling husband. Halfway across the country, the plane crashes. Edward is the sole survivor. Dear Edward is at once a transcendent coming-of-age story, a multidimensional portrait of an unforgettable cast of characters, and a breathtaking illustration of all the ways a broken heart learns to love again. So this sounded really, really good to me. This young boy, 12-year-old boy, is in this plane crash where he's the only survivor. So he loses the entire life he knew and needs to build a new one. So this sounded really compelling to me. So I've been meaning to get to this all year. So it will be coming up fairly soon. All right, so next I have Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. Yeah, the famous Wolf Hall. I have never read this. Everyone that I've ever heard that has read this book loved it. So I have a friend reading it right now. She's enjoying it immensely. This picked up multiple awards when it came out, including the Booker Prize. It's also been adapted into a television series, I think, which I have not seen. But it's historical fiction. I haven't read a lot of historical fiction, but when I do read it, I tend to enjoy it. This story, it takes place during the Cromwell era of England. So it just says here, England is a heartbeat from disaster. If the king dies without a male heir, the country could be destroyed by civil war. Henry VIII wants to annul his marriage of 20 years and marry Anne Boleyn. The Pope and Catholic Europe oppose him. The king's quest for freedom destroys his advisor, the brilliant Cardinal Wolsey, and creates a years-long power struggle between the church and crown. Into this impasse steps Thomas Cromwell, a wholly original man, both a charmer and a bully, an idealist and an opportunist, astute in reading people, and a demon of energy. And it goes on, so it's the Cromwell era, and I believe there's 3 of these. I could be wrong about that, but I believe it's a series of 3. I think the most recent, the series concluded, I believe, this year. But I wanted to get at least Wolf Hall read soon because I really do think I would enjoy it. I do love this era, so it sounds like it's going to be a fun read. So next I have A Glastonbury Romance by John Cowper Powys. So this book I did not realize was this big. This is over 1,000 pages, and we're talking not very big font. So we're talking, this is a chunker, but it just sounds so good, It's a mystical fantasy. It's sort of like the Grail story, I think, but it covers just a lot of other sort of topics like free will. So it's just it says the binding element in this huge labyrinthine chronicle is the mystical and spiritual ethos of Glastonbury and the effect upon its inhabitants of a mythical tradition from the remotest past of human history, the legend of the Grail. A crucifixion, a devastating flood, a murder, a suicide, and an exorcism. The events related in this novel encompass both the drama of the human and the miraculous of the divine. So it sounds like I'm going to really like it, but it's going to take a while to get through. But it looks like it'll be a really good winter read, maybe. So maybe in the coldest January winter months, I'll get to A Glastonbury Romance by John Cowper Powys. And I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. Powys? Powys? Anybody knows? Let me know down in the comments. Finally, I have Norwegian Wood by Haruki Murakami. I've been working my way through the Murakami novels, and this one, I believe, is the only one left from the 1980s that I have not read. So I definitely wanted this one to be my next Murakami. The description here says, when he hears her favorite Beatles song, Toru Watanabe recalls his first love, Nyoko, the girlfriend of his best friend, Kazuki. Immediately, he is transported back almost 20 years to his student days in Tokyo, adrift in a world of uneasy friendships, casual sex, passion, loss, and desire, to a time when an impetuous young woman called Midori marched into his life and he had to choose between the future and the past. This book, I believe, is the one that really made Murakami famous in Japan, and it's one often that people read when they're reading Murakami. They often read this one first, and for some reason, I'm only just now getting around to it. And I think this is maybe the 7th of the Murakami novels that I've read, or maybe even 8th. I'm not sure. I didn't count, but yeah, this one I'm really looking forward to it, and finishing out the 1980s era Murakami. So that is all of them that I have for now. I think my reading over the next few months is definitely, set. I do have some other books to get to as well, so I will not only be reading these, but you will see chats for these books popping up over the next few months. So stay tuned for that. Until next time, take care. Bye.